Yesterday, my wife walked into a luxury car dealership. 5 minutes later, she walked out humiliated. A saleswoman had laughed and said,
"People like you don't buy cars here."
The entire showroom watched her leave. What they didn't know was, the next day, I would come back and change everything. Before we continue, tell me in the comments where you're watching from, and if you enjoy stories where arrogance meets consequences, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next one. Now let me tell you what really happened that day. My wife Emily has never been someone who cares about luxury. She grew up in a small town where people valued hard work more than appearances. Even after our business became successful, she never changed much. She still preferred simple clothes, quiet cafes, and old bookstores instead of expensive malls. But there was one thing she had quietly admired for years: a car. Not just any car, a particular silver luxury sedan we once saw while walking downtown late one evening. The memory was still clear to me. We were waiting at a crosswalk when the car rolled past us slowly. The street lights reflected perfectly across its polished surface. Emily watched it disappear down the road. Then she smiled softly and said, "Someday I'd love to drive one of those." She never mentioned it again, not once. That's just who she is. She doesn't demand things, she doesn't chase status. But sometimes the quietest wishes are the ones that stay with you the longest. Years later, that same model sat inside one of the most exclusive car dealerships in the city. And one afternoon, Emily decided to walk in. The dealership looked exactly the way you would expect from a place that sells $200,000 cars. Tall glass walls, bright white lights, marble floors polished so clean you could almost see your reflection. Luxury vehicles were displayed across the showroom like pieces of art. Every surface perfect, every detail controlled. Emily stepped inside quietly. Simple sweater, jeans, no designer bag, no jewelry except her wedding ring. At first, nobody greeted her. 3 salesmen stood near the front desk talking among themselves. One of them glanced in her direction, then leaned closer to another employee and whispered something. Both of them looked at Emily again. This time, they didn't bother hiding the smile. Emily slowly walked across the showroom floor and stopped beside the silver sedan she had admired for years. She didn't touch it. She just stood there quietly, looking at it. After about a minute, one of the saleswomen finally walked over. Tall, perfect hair, sharp professional smile. "Can I help you?" she asked. Emily nodded politely.
Yes. I was hoping to ask a few questions about this model.
The saleswoman looked her up and down. Shoes, sweater, empty hands. Then she crossed her arms slightly.
This vehicle starts at around $200,000.
She said. Her voice was just loud enough for the nearby showroom to hear. A couple standing near the entrance slowly turned their heads. Emily nodded understandingly. "I understand. I just wanted to learn more about it." The saleswoman didn't move. Instead, she glanced back toward the other employees. One of them smirked. Then she leaned slightly closer to Emily, but instead of lowering her voice, she raised it just a little. "Ma'am, this dealership usually works with serious buyers." A man browsing another car looked over. A woman nearby stopped pretending to check her phone. Emily felt the attention shift toward her. "I'm just asking about the car," she said softly. The saleswoman gave a thin smile.
Of course.
Then she added, "Sometimes people come in here just to look." One of the other salesmen chuckled quietly. Emily's cheeks grew warm, but she stayed calm.
I wasn't planning to take pictures.
The saleswoman tilted her head. Well, vehicles at this level require a certain financial background. Now, several people in the showroom were watching openly. The moment had turned into an audience. Then the saleswoman said the line that Emily would remember all evening. "People like you usually feel more comfortable at the used car lots down the street."
A man near the desk raised his eyebrows. Someone behind Emily whispered something quietly. One of the salesmen laughed under his breath. Emily stood there silently, embarrassed. Not angry, just small. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. "I didn't mean to waste your time."
Then she turned and walked toward the door. Behind her, the saleswoman shrugged and walked back toward the counter. The employees started talking again like nothing had happened. But what none of them realized was, that moment had just cost them something far more valuable than a sale. That evening, Emily told me what had happened. We were sitting at the kitchen table when she finished the story. She didn't exaggerate, she didn't complain, she simply described the moment the way it happened. Then she shrugged.
It's fine. I shouldn't have gone in there anyway.
I looked at her quietly. Then I asked one question. Do you still like the car? She laughed softly.
Of course I do. But I'm definitely not going back there.
I nodded slowly. All right. But that night, I kept thinking about something. Not the car, not the price, the moment. The way someone had decided who Emily was within 10 seconds. The way a room full of people had watched the humiliation happen. And the way she quietly walked out. The next morning, I made a small plan. The following afternoon, the dealership employees were standing near the entrance again. Another quiet afternoon. A few customers browsing. Then something outside caught their attention. A car pulling into the lot. Not just any car, a black Rolls-Royce Phantom. Even luxury dealerships notice when a Rolls-Royce arrives. Two salesmen immediately straightened their jackets. One of them hurried toward the glass doors. High-value clients meant serious commission. The Rolls-Royce rolled slowly to a stop. The door opened, and I stepped out. Inside the showroom, the same saleswoman glanced toward the entrance. At first, she simply watched like everyone else. Then she saw me walk inside. The manager approached immediately.
Good afternoon, sir. How can we assist you today?
He said with a welcoming smile. I looked around the showroom calmly. Then I spoke.
My wife visited this dealership yesterday.
The manager nodded politely. I see.
She asked about the silver sedan over there.
The saleswoman froze. I continued calmly.
She was told that people like her should shop at used car lots.
The room went quiet. The manager slowly turned toward the staff. The saleswoman's face had turned pale.
I didn't realize.
She started. That's the problem, I said calmly. You shouldn't have to realize anything. Several employees shifted uncomfortably. The customers nearby were watching now. I walked toward the silver car Emily loved. It's a beautiful vehicle, I said. Then I turned back to the manager.
I'll take it.
The manager blinked. Of course, sir. But I raised a finger slightly.
There's just one condition.
The room leaned into silence.
My wife will return tomorrow to pick it up. And the same saleswoman who asked her to leave.
I glanced toward her. Will personally apologize. The manager nodded immediately.
That will be arranged.
The saleswoman looked like the ground had disappeared beneath her. I turned and walked back outside. Then I stepped into the Rolls-Royce and drove away. The next afternoon, Emily returned to the dealership. This time, the entire staff greeted her at the door. The same saleswoman stepped forward slowly. Her voice was quiet. I am very sorry for how I treated you yesterday. Emily simply nodded. Then she walked toward the silver sedan she had admired for years. She sat behind the wheel. Her hands rested on the steering wheel for a moment. Then she looked at me and smiled.
You didn't have to do all this.
She said softly. I smiled back. Yes, I did. Because sometimes the people who judge you the fastest are the ones who understand the least about who you really are.